All right, guys, so in this special video, I'm joined here by good friend Charlie Burton. And in this video, we're going to talk about the market that everybody's talking about, and that is Bitcoin. So let's see what the Bitcoin charts are likely telling us in this video. All right, guys, join us. Charlie, how are you doing, by the way? You look very nice and fit, as always.
Yeah, all good, all good. Unfortunately, I don't get to wear a suit like you do, but yeah, I'm fairly casual today. Yes.
Now, you made the right move because I'm absolutely boiling in this suit on a hot day here in London. Yeah, I'm a bit overdressed. Sorry, guys. Anyway,
no, you always look sharp. I'm the one who feels underdressed.
No, you look like the model for was it Ralph Lauren or something? I presume.
Yes, probably. I don't know these brands, but my wife actually dresses me, so I can't. I'm not allowed to go to the shops myself. She has to get stuff for me. So
we'll stick to that story then, shall we? Guys, if you don't mind, before we bring Charlie in and talk about Bitcoin, I just want to give you a quick recap because it's quite important because some of you may not be familiar with what I've been saying about Bitcoin, especially to our members over the last several weeks and months. So just to give you some context as to what I've been saying over the last several months and the warnings I've been giving about Bitcoin over the last several months, I'm going to play a very short clip for a few minutes. Because here's the thing, guys. When Bitcoin was trading at about $48,000 to near $50,000, it is true. I was wrong. I did not get it right about the direction of Bitcoin at the time. Again, I thought the uptrend would likely continue because even though I'm a contrarian, I'm also a trend follower as well. So it is true, I was wrong about that at the time when Bitcoin was near $48,000. However, guys, I did give several warnings. I gave several risk warnings about Bitcoin over the last several weeks and months, especially even when Bitcoin was trading at, again, above $40,000. I gave strong warnings and the key levels at which point I would likely change my mind and be quite bearish about Bitcoin. So essentially what I said on member videos was that if Bitcoin were to break certain key levels support, then I'd be looking to see much lower levels, again, significantly lower levels on Bitcoin. So let me play a few clips again for the next few minutes and we'll come back.
Support just near 40K. If Bitcoin were to drop below the support, as I mentioned before, this could mean a likely C-wave move towards this key level of support, again, near the 30K. And indeed, it could actually result in a move lower than that. Because, again, as mentioned before, if this is our likely A wave, B wave, and C wave, and I should mention this particular wave count only gains probability if Bitcoin falls below this support range, just near 40K, as we can see here. That's our support, just near September lows and the January lows. So if the support level breaks, this could mean a likely C wave move towards the 30K and potentially even lower levels, potentially even toward the $22,000 level here for the C wave of 4. So it could mean, for example, the C wave may extend all the way down to 22,000. The bounce is looking very choppy, okay, which at the moment looks corrective in structure. It does not look impulsive. That is the major risk that is facing Bitcoin right now, that this entire structure that we can see here, this entire rebound structure since January does not, to me, look impulsive. It does not look like a typical 1, 2, 3 wave structure of an uptrend. It looks rather choppy, rather of a corrective sideways structure. So, for example, if Bitcoin breaks this structure, so if instead we see a break below, once again, below 39,000 and then follow through below 37K, then no. A break like that, we can see a break below this channeling structure, a break below 37K that actually increases the risk and could increase the probability of a move back down to test the January lows, and yes, even back down to test the 30K level here. So as we can see, Bitcoin is still stuck in this structural pattern, what appears to be still some kind of a corrective pattern. And again, Bitcoin so far has not shown to us anything that could potentially indicate it's going to break out again in an impulsive and indeed bullish fashion. If that 43K level does not break this week or in the next couple of weeks quickly, and if instead we see a drop below 37K, then no. That actually could increase risk quite significantly to the downside. A break below 37K, then that actually could increase risk towards the next key levels. I think potentially, very likely the 30K level could get tested. And indeed, yes, I think we potentially could move towards 27K as well. If this is our likely A wave of 4 and a B wave bounce, and the C wave could likely take us down at a very minimum into 30K to 27K, and yes, potentially even if 27K does not hold, we may even see a move down into the lower support region for a potential wave 4 in the green zone. The green zone that we have here. The reason I color this green is because that's where the 200 weekly averages. So 200 weekly average is at this level, which means this level could be very important for Bitcoin if, that is, we make a move below 27K. So if, for example, if Bitcoin comes down to 27K, does not hold it, for example, let's say we get a bounce from near this region and then continues to push lower, then we're looking at 22K to approximately these levels here, the 200 weekly average. Okay, so that means if Bitcoin cannot hold 22K, then we could be seeing a further extension into this range between 21, actually I beg your pardon, that's between 20K or 19,891 to likely 17K, with the optimal support being between 20K to 18,000, 18,500.
All right, guys, welcome back. So as you saw, guys, over the last several weeks and months, even going back as far as January, I was saying, look, watch these key levels support, 40K, 37K, and I kept repeating this over and over again. Again, some of you have not seen these videos because if you're not a member, you probably would not have seen those videos. But again, if you are a member, then you probably remember that I gave warnings over and over again that if Bitcoin were to break 40K, and especially 37K, I said a move below 37K would very likely result in a drop lower, significant move lower to 30K, 27K, and potentially even lower levels towards 22K, and likely those levels near 22 to 18K as well. All right, guys. So again, we've been right about that over the last several months and weeks. All right, guys. So do yourself a favor and make sure you check out our recent member videos. And again, we cover a lot more about Bitcoin, stock markets, and also we cover gold as well. And again, we cover the charts from an Elliott Wave perspective as well. I'll put the link for you guys in the description to join our membership. Now, here's one person I have with me here, and that's Charlie Burton. Charlie, welcome back. Now, here's the thing. When I spoke with Charlie Burton, I think it was about over a month ago now, and I don't remember what the price was at the time. You, Charlie, said that you were expecting Bitcoin could likely fall to 20K.
It still suggests that there's a lot of the general public out there who are not active investors or traders who are still looking at getting involved or are dipping their toe in the water. And I would still like to see those general masses flushed out a little bit more first. So coming back to your first question, what would I rather see this year? Personally, I would rather see, I don't have a bias towards Bitcoin. I would rather see it come lower rather than go to 100,000, because I would rather see that market flush out those people so that when those friends of mine are saying, oh, not interested in cryptocurrencies, Charlie, what a load of rubbish. That's what I want to hear, because when I start hearing that, I'm in. And so
interesting.
But I'm not hearing.
No, I agree.
When it comes to sentiment, so when I start hearing that, then I'll be saying, I'm getting some really good buying signals right now because no one wants to invest, or sort of thing. The layman doesn't want to. So from a sentiment perspective, I think it would do a nice job of flushing out a lot of the general public. We've got these old highs from 2018, which, fun enough, comes in at around about 20,000. And so technically, if we were to come down and breach 30, the next technical level on my chart would be this high here. So price has broken out through that high back in 2021 or end of 2020, and we haven't come back down to retest. We know that technically markets like to break out and they like to retest levels. So we'll have to see. But yeah, if we broke 30,000, then I definitely could see 20,000 as being, or the area of around 20,000, maybe it goes to 21 or 22, but down in that zone for a retest of those old heights. So yeah, technically that would be what I'd see. And if we came down to that zone, then I would happily be looking to buy down in that zone.
But I mean, you were bang on right. How do you feel about that? I mean, your call about 20K Bitcoin turned out to be correct. How do you feel about that, Charlie?
I think, like I said at the time, I don't care. I don't have feelings. As a trader, we shouldn't have too many emotions when it comes to, and especially when it comes to being right or wrong. Whether we're right about something or whether we're wrong about something, our emotional plane our emotions need to be like a ripple on a pond rather than a tidal wave coming in. So I don't care. And that's what I was saying at the time. I didn't have a vested interest, as I said at the time. I wasn't I wasn't active in Bitcoin. I was flat. I wasn't in anything.
Some people, I remember at the time when you said you're not biased about Bitcoin, that you have no vested interest in Bitcoin, there was some pushback to you. I remember I read the comments. There were some people who were saying, no, you are biased. They're saying you're definitely biased, Charlie, because you missed out on the move higher, and now you want Bitcoin to drop to 20K. And in other words, that makes you biased as a result. Now, I should just say, I think that was unfair. It's an unfair criticism of you, because I understood what you meant when you said you're not biased. You just meant you don't care because whatever happens to Bitcoin, whether it goes up, whether it goes down, doesn't matter for you because you're a trader. I'm the same way. Honestly, I don't care what happens to Bitcoin either way either, whether it goes down or goes up. It is true. We all of us have a certain bias. I don't think it's correct to say we don't have any bias at all. We all approach the market, the charts through a certain lens, a perspective. You could say that's a bias for sure. But I think I understood what you meant. Could you explain just a little tiny bit more quickly about what you meant when you said you're not biased, that you don't care?
First thing is that whoever said that about I missed the upside, that's not true, because I did catch the upside. I had been involved in it. I just closed out anyway earlier last year. It doesn't really matter. If I'd have held on, then I'd still be holding on now, wouldn't I? At 20,000, I'd be one of those 50% of Bitcoin holders who's now underwater. So I think, again, I come at the markets from a trading perspective, and I appreciate that some people want to hold on to some asset classes for years and years and years, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just a different time frame that they're looking at, and so there are differences between what a trader's time frame is, which might be maybe up to a year for myself on something like that, maybe. Or for someone who's saying they want to hold on for the next 10 years. I don't know. So that's different there. Like I said, I'm about as neutral as I can be. What I was saying was that if it did come down to 20,000, then that's a great technical area. If it had come down, it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. If you have 10 opportunities and some of those opportunities escape you, but you only have 1 or 2 out of that 10, you're still going to have some great trades. So
that's right.
I think that for some people, it's a case of thinking about the markets in a slightly different way, and rather than thinking they've got to catch everything or whatever, or got to be right all of the time, because we don't have to be.
Yeah, risk management, absolutely. And most people, unfortunately, especially when it comes to crypto and Bitcoin, they refuse to have a stop loss in place, which is, okay, fine. That's the risk you're going to take. Then you got to stick with it. Charlie, let's go to your charts.
Okay, so we've got a daily chart here of Bitcoin at the moment. We can see since sort of mid-June, it's a bit trapped again. It seems to be going through this stair-step pattern, doesn't it, to the downside, where we have consolidations, then a quick break to the downside, consolidation, and then a quick break to the downside. So we seem to be in this sort of stair-step pattern at the moment. Of price breaking down, consolidation, breakdown, consolidation. So that's the pattern at the moment that we're seeing. Now, when we talked before, we were talking about the potential for Bitcoin to come down to 20,000. It's currently, as we're filming this, at 19,000 or so. The one thing that concerned me, actually, once we did start coming down to 20,000, was those December 2017 highs, was the amount of people who started talking about 20,000. So that then becomes a concern to me, because then too many people are seeing the same thing. The old 2017 highs, and everyone's saying, 20,000, as price starts coming down towards it. So unfortunately, and this is why I say this is my concern, if I come back to a weekly chart, actually, no, I need to be on the monthlies again. There's not a lot on my monthly chart here because of the lack of data.
On your monthly, it is interesting. The price is now below the 50 simple moving average, isn't it?
Well, it is,
that
but
usually is a level of support.
It is, but the way that I look at technical analysis is it's not a precise thing always. Exactly. So you get what I call overruns or overhangs. So you might overshoot something like a moving average there, but actually overall it then starts coming back up in maybe a couple of months time or whatever. So
if you don't mind, Charlie, if you just go and type in BTC USD again on that chart, if you go to the Bitstamp exchange chart, all I was going to say was on the Bitstamp chart where you see more data, you'll see that Bitcoin has a general tendency to hold or be within that range on a pullback to that 50 simple moving average, that black line on your chart. You can drag it back a little bit. If you put it on a logarithmic, we can actually see it a bit better, I think, if you just click log.
Yes, it is. I mean, I'm going to take it back because I don't use logarithmic scales, but
that's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. So you're absolutely right. But prices will overshoot. Again, from a sentiment perspective, my concern is too many people are looking at 20,000. So therefore, my view is we need to overshoot this anyway. So from a sentiment perspective, too many people now looking at 20,000. So we need to go to 15 or 14 or something like that to overshoot. But I do think that overall, we're actually there or thereabouts. Look at this high here, the intermediate high from 2019. That's around about 13 to 14,000. So not a bad level to come to. And that's still, I would still look at that, even if I put a pen on here, even if we came down to that level, just that little bit lower, and then started to bounce. Okay, it's gone below the 50, but I'd still say, okay, it's a bit of an overshoot. I would still say that's fine. The 50 is still facing up. Angle of moving averages is important, the way I use them as well. So I think in the grand scheme of things, we're getting close. But it's not to say that in the next 2 months, we don't still go lower. We'll discuss that anyway, because we can talk about that with the stock markets and what's going on around the world. But technically, yeah, we're getting close. I would say that in the grand scheme of things, we're getting close to potentially a key low point. Yes, in the coming months here. Yeah,
and it's interesting that it's been several days and Bitcoin still hasn't managed to see us. Well, we had one bounce already. We can see it on the daily chart. We had at least a bit of a bounce there on the temporary bounce there, but nothing strong. What is your, I mean, I suppose your near resistance would be the June highs. Am I right, Charlie? That's your near resistance?
These zone here in June, yeah, well, really for me, it'd be the June, this zone here, this consolidation, that would be a technical resistance area there for me, yes. Overall at the moment, for me, the bigger picture still presides, and I would still be looking at a bit more downside, but that's how I'm looking at it. It doesn't mean to say it's going to happen, but that's what I would like to see happen. I think that in line with the stock market, we've seen cryptos coming off in line with risk assets, in line with stock markets, generally speaking. And again, then it comes down to your view, doesn't it? And it comes down to whether you believe the stock market has got further to fall, or whether you think the stock market is going to go up. If you think the stock market's going to go up from here, then there may well be supportive for the likes of Bitcoin.
So yeah, you make an interesting point there, Charlie. A lot depends on what the stock market does, what the S&P does, because of the correlation between the two. So yeah, if we're going to see if the stock market finally manages to show, and we'll talk about the stock market separately, but if the stock market can finally show us what it plans to do, and at the moment it hasn't done that, there are still a lot of variables out there. But I think yes, then we can become more clear. Once the stock market picture becomes more clear, I think the Bitcoin picture can become more clear as well, and we're not there yet. In other words, the picture is not completely clear at the moment yet. I agree with you on that. But anyway, we shall see what happens. All right, guys, listen, do yourself a favor and please go and check out our membership. I'll put the link to our membership in the description, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Thanks, Charlie. Really appreciate it.